and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, Bryan Herta.
Hello, Bryan. Welcome to Butaca 92 from Monterrey, Mexico. Here's Jesse Camargo. I think you guys already know each other. My name is Isaac Benavides. Welcome to our show. We're going to be talking a little bit about...
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming, man. We were talking a little bit about F1 and some of the, let's say, gossiping and stuff that was happening about Toto Wolff and other stuff. But let's put that aside and let's see what's going on with you. What's going on with this endurance championship? What is this? What can you tell us about this?
This is kind of a cool thing for us. So since I stopped driving IndyCars and retired from racing, we started our own team, and we've been racing sports cars here in the United States with Hyundai. And we've just now started supporting a team in Mexico, Ahora Racing. And we are getting ready to do our first race together with them in Mexico at the 24 Hours in Mexico City, just coming up next week. So exciting for us to be going to Mexico and supporting Hyundai and supporting Ahora Racing. And, it's a place I love to travel and visit. And you guys are in Monterey. Of course, we used to race IndyCar in Monterey, so I've been there several times. And it's kind of cool to see Mexican sports car racing really starting to grow, and this is an exciting thing that we want to get behind.
Thank you. I'm going to translate for our listeners over here in Mexico.
Okay.
Le preguntaba a Bryan acerca de la competencia de endurance o de resistencia que va a traer aquí a México. Es una carrera de 24 horas que ahora le preguntaremos sobre el formato, y nos dice que ahora, en colaboración con Hyundai y con el equipo de Ray Racing, ha estado pues viendo este proyecto y van a traer esta competencia para México. Estoy correcto, ¿no? Oye, si esto es lo que van a hacer, ¿no?
Sí, así es, ¿verdad? Vamos a darle la bienvenida y tratar de traducirlo lo mejor que podamos. We're going to try to translate as you speak, Bryan, at the same time.
Okay.
Last time I saw you were racing against my good old friend Michel Jourdain and Adrian Fernandez. You were out there putting a big name. I'm from the old school. I used to travel with you guys, even as far as Australia, following those Grand Prix. That was a long flight. But welcome to Butaca. Bienvenido a Butaca. La última vez que lo vimos, a Bryan estaba ya peleándose con Michel Jourdain y Adrian Fernandez. You were in Monterrey. You know that track. But let's talk about endurance. How did you get involved with this endurance program? I know you're an open wheel guy. You race open wheel. Él corrió open wheel, que es un estilo. ¿Cómo le pregunto cómo se involucró? How did you get involved with endurance?
Later in my career, I did some sports car racing, endurance races as well. 24 Hours of Daytona, 24 Hours of Le Mans, 12 Hours of Sebring, big races like this. And it's very different than open wheel, but it was a great challenge. And so when I started my team, we of course compete in IndyCar, but the chance to also compete in sports car racing with Hyundai gave us something really fun and unique and different to do. And that's kind of what led us to now supporting Ahora Racing in Mexico City.
Bueno, dice Bryan que cuando él terminó su carrera de Open Wheel, se involucró con las carreras de duración, ¿no? Endurance, que le llaman como las 24 horas de Le Mans, 24 horas de Daytona, creo que estuvo allá en la Sebring también estuvo, y fue un manejo distinto, pero se involucró tanto que ahora está a cargo de este programa de Hyundai, ¿no? El nuevo carro que está trayendo por primera vez en México. Isaac, le voy a preguntar nomás rápidamente, let's talk about this specifics of this car. What makes it different from all the endurance cars? Le pregunto cuáles son las diferencias y las especificaciones de este auto. Dice the weight, what kind of tubing do you use, qué tipo de tubo usa, is it chromoly 1131, which one is it, is it a very light car, what makes it different, qué es lo que lo hace diferente este Hyundai Endurance?
So this car is based on the Elantra N production car model.
Okay.
And of course it's stripped out. We put roll cage, all the safety equipment in it. We do some modifications for the engine, and this is the same Elantra N TCR type of car that races in TCR championships all over the world, including in the U.S. And so this is a very well-known car. It's very successful. We just won the team manufacturer and driver championships in IMSA again this year with this car. So it's a very proven package, and that's why we feel very confident introducing the car into Mexico And with Ahora Racing, we know it will be a very competitive package, and we'll do a lot of great things in the endurance races there.
Lo traduzco rápidamente, dice que este carro está basado en el Elantra que sale en producción, Isaac. Es el carro que lo venden. Obviamente le quitaron todas las casas, todas las partes y lo construyeron, le pusieron un roll cage adentro, lo hicieron, pero traen muchos proyectos en desarrollo y lo hace un auto pero muy competitivo, y por primera vez viene a México, viene a competir a las 24 horas de México y ya lo están tomando en consideración. Do you think you are the edge on endurance? ¿Estás en la punta del autos de endurance with this new Hyundai? Is that what you're telling us? You think you have the edge here? ¿Estás en la punta de los carros de endurance con este Hyundai?
Well, I think this will be our first race in Mexico, so I don't want to say we have the edge. We're with Ahora Racing, we're maybe the new guys now, which is good. But we have a good start because we have a very known package. But the rules are a little different in Mexico than maybe how we race in the U.S. The fuel will be different. So there's many things we have to learn. So I'm approaching this first race as really a chance to learn. Certainly we will try and achieve a good result, but also to learn and to understand how to develop the car specific for the Mexican market, because our hope is that we can sell more cars and support more cars into Mexico in the future.
Okay.
Dice que es su primera participación en México, entonces no sabe cómo va a reaccionar, no sabe porque prácticamente son los chicos nuevos en el campeonato y están tratando de adaptarlo a las nuevas reglas de la Ciudad de México. Y una última pregunta sobre este auto, the altitude, Bryan, you race Mexico City, the altitude, la altitud juega un papel importante porque tienes menos aire, ¿no? Y eso es importantísimo. How do you think it's going to affect? ¿Cómo va a afectar el Hyundai? You need to adapt to the altitude. We know that in open wheel, we know it here in Hyundai. Le pregunto cuáles van a ser las adaptaciones. Is this a new era for the Hyundai? Is a new grounds, new territory? Is that what nuevo territorio?
It is, and that is a good point. We have already tested in Mexico City a little bit, so we have a little bit of experience with the car. But the altitude does present some challenges. We've never raced at an altitude that high, so for the engine, the air is much thinner, also for cooling for the brakes. So there's many differences that will present new challenges for us. And again, that's why we partner with Ahora Racing, because they are experienced in Mexico and they are our local experts. So they know a lot about the specific series and challenges of this track that we don't have as much experience with. So I feel like between their experience in Mexico, our experience with the Elantra N, that we should be able to very quickly become a competitive force.
Okay.
Traduzco rápidamente, Isaac, nomás digo que sí, efectivamente la altitud va a jugar un papel importante. Ya han probado ellos, ya hicieron pruebas, entonces, pero se han aliado con este equipo Rare Sport de Puebla para tener un poco más de información y esperan pues obviamente como cualquier equipo un muy buen resultado tratando de adaptarse a la altitud en México, Isaac.
Sí, perfecto. Muy bien. Y creo que entiendo también por esto hicieron la alianza con la gente de Ahora Racing, que son los que ya eran expertos aquí. Nos comentaba. Bryan, one quick question. How are you going to divide your time between IndyCar this year and the Endurance Championship? Are you going to be splitting your attention, your focus, or how's this going to work out for you?
Yes. I need two Bryan Hertas, but there is only one. So I do have to sometimes make a decision. If there's both endurance race and IndyCar race on the same weekend, then typically I attend the IndyCar race because I'm also calling races on the radio for Kyle Kirkwood with the Andretti team. So I have to be at the IndyCar race always. Luckily, I have many great people on our endurance racing team, and they can go racing without me. The IndyCar guys maybe need me a little bit more. So
all right.
There's some weekends where I cannot be in two places. It's difficult.
Okay. Muy bien, nos comenta Bryan, le preguntaba sobre cómo se va a dividir entre la IndyCar y el campeonato de Endurance, ya que pues va a estar participando en ambos. Entonces menciona que sí, que va a necesitar de dos Bryans, y para esto pues en algunas carreras podrá estar en las dos y en otras tendrá que pues a lo mejor echarles más la mano ahí en la IndyCar, que es donde lo pueden requerir un poco más, ya que en la parte de endurance tienen un poco más de apoyo ahí donde hay gente muy preparada y pues a lo mejor no necesitan directamente de él. Bryan, for those that don't really know how this format of a race, this endurance race works, what can you tell us about, like, what are the steps to go into? Like, it's 24 hours. How many drivers? Is there a reset, or I don't know? How are you guys planning to do this here in Mexico?
So, 24-hour race is a really difficult challenge because there's so many things that can go wrong in that amount of time. And you have multiple drivers, so usually three or four drivers share the car. They take turns. You drive for maybe 2 hours or something like this. Then the driver gets out during the pit stop when we're putting fuel in the car and changing the tires. We're also changing the driver. So there's a lot of strategy to when you put which driver in, and throughout the entire race, there's just so many cars on track. There'll be a lot of cars on track, and unlike IndyCar, where it's all Indy cars, in endurance racing, we have different classes of cars. So you'll have faster cars, and then you have slower cars all together on track. So you have a lot of traffic, and so it's very exciting. And if you like racing in Mexico City, but you haven't seen an endurance race, come out next week to Mexico. Come out to the track and check it out. I'm going to be there myself with our team helping to support Ahora Racing, and I'm really looking forward to being part of the event.
Thank you. I'm going to translate for the people listening to us. Le preguntaba a Bryan cuáles las particularidades sobre estos campeonatos de 24 horas para poderlo entender más, y me comenta que sí, que una de estas es que primero pues se necesitan de 3 a 4 pilotos para poder correr las 24 horas por auto. Muchas cosas salen mal, así que tienen que estar preparados pues todo el equipo de ingenieros y demás para atender cualquier cosa que se requiera, que hay carros distintos, hay muchos carros dentro de la pista y unos son pues más rápidos, otros son a lo mejor más de agarre o de curvas y todos son muy distintos y cada quien lleva su propia estrategia, así que en este caso pues sí, estas son parte de las particularidades. Lo que nos menciona es que él va a estar en esta carrera en Ciudad de México y que si usted nunca ha presenciado una carrera de 24 horas, pues esta es una perfecta oportunidad y ya de aquí después se puede ir a Alemán, a Daytona y a todas las otras. Eso ya lo metí yo, eso no lo dice, pero les invito yo para que después vayan. All right, thank you, Bryan. Jesse, any other questions?
Are you going to jump behind the wheel? I mean, once a driver, always a driver. Le pregunto si se va a animar a subir detrás del volante. It's very hard as a driver. It's very hard to just watch the races. Believe me, I lived through that, you know. And es muy, le pregunto si se va a animar a subirse. Le pica estar detrás del volante cuando eres piloto. No, what's your opinion? Are you going to do it?
No, too many gray hairs now. Too many gray hairs.
Hey, look at it.
Yeah. No, I love racing and I love competing as a team owner now. My time as a driver is over, and I feel very lucky. I got to race in a great era in IndyCar and Champ Car with great Mexican drivers like Adrian Fernandez and Michel Jourdain and so many others, Mario Dominguez. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You know, we have the new Mexican hero, Pato Award.
Oh,
yes.
When are we going to come back to Mexico with IndyCar?
Yeah, Monterrey, bueno, dice, primero, let me translate real quick. Dice que no, que ya hay muchas canas en el pelo de Bryan, que su tiempo como piloto ya se acabó. Y me pregunta inmediatamente el nuevo héroe Pato Award, la patomanía, ¿no? ¿Cuándo vamos a regresar a la IndyCar a México? Well, we have thought about it. We have. I'm here now late, so I get involved a lot with IndyCar. I follow you guys all. I'm very good friends with David First over there in IndyCar and the new era of IndyCar. Le digo que sigo a la IndyCar. We're discussing it. Hopefully we can bring it. If it's not Mexico City, because they already got a Formula One, bring it to Monterrey, they have a great track. You know, Forsyth built a real nice track. They use it for jogging now. It's being used for jogging in the morning. Estamos hablando de la posibilidad de que venga IndyCar. Let me ask you about IndyCar. How do you see, now that you touch IndyCar, how do you see IndyCar for 2024? You know what's going on. There's 3 races in F1 in the U.S. How was the response of IndyCar, which is a great championship? I'm from the old school. I'm from Andrew Craig era. When Paul Tracy, the 150,000 people in Monterey, we went to Gold Coast. Man, that was a 17-hour flight. That was far. Anyway, but le digo, desde la vieja escuela, cuando estaba Andrew Craig, I'm pretty sure IndyCar is watching this. Estoy seguro que la IndyCar está viendo esto. What's the plan? I know you're not inside the organization. Tú no estás dentro de la organización, but I know you probably have a little bit of feeling of what's coming for this 2024 season.
I can tell you, having raced in such a great era in IndyCar myself, that I feel like right now is the most competitive it's ever been. It's so close, and there's so many good teams and good drivers that to win a race is harder than it's ever been. And it's just very exciting to see the sport doing really well competitively. And we just want to see it continue to grow. That's why I said, let's go to Mexico. Come on, let's do it.
Dice que espera ver este año que es muy competitivo, es muy difícil ganar la IndyCar, lo cual hemos platicado ampliamente aquí, Isaac, y sí, espera competir, que es el mejor momento para IndyCar, y dice precisamente porque ve el crecimiento, ¿por qué no vamos a México? Let me ask you this, Colton, we all know who Colton is now, Colton Herta, he made a name for himself. He's no longer the Bryan Herta son. He's Colton Herta, you know what I'm saying? So, ha hecho su propio nombre, Colton Herta. Ya no es el hijo de Bryan Herta. He's Colton Herta. He made an approach last year or this year to go into F1. He didn't make it. However, he's doing pretty good in IndyCar. Do you see him? ¿Lo ves a él? Do you see him going into F1? You're his dad. I'm pretty sure you talk this thing over Thanksgiving, Is he thinking of maybe going over to Formula One? How do you feel about him going to Formula One? ¿Cómo se siente él de ir a Formula 1?
I'll tell you, our family, our first love is always IndyCar.
Okay.
All right.
And so he's in a great team, in a great position in IndyCar, and I love watching him compete and seeing him do so well. But Formula One is Formula One. And I think any driver, if given an opportunity, would love to see what the challenge is like and to test themselves in that environment too. So I think if he ever had a real opportunity, and maybe, we see a lot with Andretti trying to make into Formula One, if they can make it, then maybe there'll be a chance for Colton. But, he's in such a good place right now too with IndyCar that he's very happy getting to race in the Indy 500 and all these great events. So, we'll see, but for the moment, his focus is to achieve some big things in IndyCar, to win more races, hopefully to try and win a championship, try to win an Indy 500.
Muy bien.
Bueno, dice que su amor de su familia siempre será IndyCar, que sí, obviamente que cualquier piloto, si se le abren las puertas de ir a Fórmula 1, sería ir a la Fórmula 1, pero su familia va directamente a Indy. Parece que perdimos ahí la conexión, no sé si todavía nos escuche, pero afortunadamente dice que está en un muy buen equipo, muy buena posición y está queriendo seguir y continuar con el trabajo que tiene dentro de la IndyCar. Así es que ya tienen la respuesta aquí de Bryan Herta, Isaac.
Yeah, perfecto. Brian, I saw a video of Colton driving your old open wheeler, your old kart on the racetrack. How is it? How does it feel to watch your son getting into your old car? I don't know, hey, be careful with this. It sometimes does this. It's not like the new cars or something. How was it for you?
So it was incredible. Colton found my first IndyCar win, my car from 1998, the Shell IndyCar. And he bought it and gave it to me as a gift for my birthday this year.
Oh my God.
It was a big surprise, incredible. And so I decided to surprise him at the end of the year. I got the car ready, and we went and we both drove the car at Laguna Seca, where that car won the race in 1998. And so he had a chance then to drive this car that it was 2 years before he was even born. So to experience the IndyCar from that era and see how it's different from the IndyCars now, I think there was a lot of things that were different, but I think he was surprised there was a lot of things that it still felt like an IndyCar. It still felt a little bit familiar. And maybe that was kind of cool that the heritage of IndyCar, the experience for a driver is still there.
Thank you. Le preguntaba a Bryan qué había sentido ahora que justo hace un año manejó su antiguo auto, su hijo, Colton Herta, y dice que pudieron manejar juntos porque lo renovó, se lo regaló de cumpleaños su hijo a él, el primer auto que había tenido de Indy, lo pusieron a medidas y pudieron utilizarlo al final del año. Lo sorprendió ahí corriendo la pista de Laguna, que fue donde había ganado Bryan. Y que pues fue una muy bonita experiencia. Bryan, we were talking a little bit this week about how different it is to watch Formula One and watch IndyCar racing, and that if there is some kind of rivalry, my position on it is that there's no such thing as a bad rivalry, or it's not enemies. I see it as a same part of the same motorsporting world, and that there is enough market for both of them. And I think that it's become, Indy racing has become as a driver seater or something for Formula One, but it's becoming more and more relevant IndyCar racing, that perhaps some drivers don't really want to go to Formula One and prefer to stay in IndyCar.
Yes, so IndyCar is its own unique thing. You know, we race ovals and street courses and road courses, and it's a North American championship. Formula One is obviously very big on the world stage, but they're different. And I think what's interesting is, and Colton found this, when he was testing or spent some time in Formula One with some of the teams and drivers, they all watch IndyCar. And of course, all the IndyCar drivers, they watch Formula One. So they know each other or familiar with the championships, and they're all curious. And I think it's natural for a driver who's in a top championship like that to see another top championship, and it's natural to be curious. I wonder how I would do there. How would I measure against those drivers? And I think you see that. You see drivers come from Formula One, come to IndyCar, like Marcus Ericsson, who's a new teammate for Colton this year. And he says, I'm happy here. I prefer IndyCar. So I think it's great. It's not a rivalry. They're two great championships, but they're very different. And I think you can appreciate both.
I do as well. That's what we were discussing. I'm glad you think that way. And I didn't know that there was like this competitive mindfulness or something for drivers. Like, I want to go there and see how I dwell with those guys, like on their field, on their turf, and do what they do. That's great. Le preguntaba a Bryan que qué tan complicada era, digamos, esta rivalidad entre Indy o la parte de Fórmula 1. Me dice que no existe tal cosa como una rivalidad, que inclusive los pilotos pues les encantaría ir de una a la otra, como si fueran distintas ligas del mismo deporte, y poderse medir pues bajo distintas, ahora sí que pues condiciones, y ver que también les iría a los de Fórmula 1 en Indy y a los de Indy en Fórmula 1. Jesse?
Sí. Quiero agradecerle a Bryan porque sé que tiene el tiempo medido. I want to thank you for this interview, this space that you made out for us, and please keep us informed about this new program. I'm very curious about this endurance. How big is the championship is going to be in the U.S.? Is the 24 Hours of Daytona, Sebring, is that part of your program? Le pregunto que nos mantenga informado de su campeonato de endurance. Estamos muy curiosos de saber. Le pregunto si incluye las 12 horas de Sebring y también si incluye las 24 horas de Daytona. Is that part of your program, Bryan?
Yeah, so we race in the IMSA series.
Okay.
We race in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Championship in IMSA, which races in Daytona, in Sebring, and all these big events. So we're part of all those weekends. And so we're excited because, Mexico has a great passion for motorsport. And to see a championship like this starting to grow and take hold in Mexico, maybe 24 Hours of Mexico City could be a name that you hear like Daytona 24 or like Le Mans 24 in the future. So we want to be part of that, and we want to support that.
Dice Brian, pues sí, que va a estar compitiendo en las 24 horas de Le Mans y que en las 24 horas de Daytona y Sebring y ojalá pudieran incluir también las 24 horas de México. Yeah, we do have a big fan base. I just came back from the Formula One in Mexico. I couldn't even walk. There were so many people there. More than a soccer match, you know. Le digo que acabo de regresar a la Fórmula 1 allá en México y sí estaba muy lleno. We want to thank you. Please keep us informed. Let us know when there's a test drive available for the press. We'll be there for try that endurance Hyundai. Just before we go, how much is the weight and is it a four cylinder, 6 cylinder? ¿Cuánto pesa el auto y es un 4 cilindros o 6 cilindros? 6 cylinders.
Okay, so it's a 4-cylinder, 2.2 liter, 2-liter motor, 2-liter motor. They're all 2-liter motors, and in TCR, and they put out about 340 horsepower. Front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive,
which is unique in racing. But it's very close to the road car, but obviously a racing version.
Okay.
And that's why Hyundai really supports and likes. They can demonstrate the performance of their Elantra N to the public by showing we can put on a racetrack against these other great brands and race very competitively.
Bueno, dice que es un 2.0, 4 cilindros, 380 caballos de fuerza con dirección frontal. Así es que es algo nuevo y unique para las carreras de endurance. Brian, we want to thank you once again. Please keep us informed through your people over there all year, how you guys doing through the season. And I'll see you at one of the IndyCar races. We can talk more about bringing the IndyCar into Mexico. Let's get the Penske people involved with this. And let's do we have a speedway over there in Monterrey, which is, you've been there, you know, and it's unbelievable, you know.
Let's do it. Thank you all for having me very much. I really appreciate. And, I want to thank again Ahora Racing for welcoming us into Mexico. And we can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you very much.
Ahí acaba de dar las gracias a Ahora Motorsports, Isaac, y pues se despide y le agradecemos a Brian, ¿verdad?
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming.